Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome to the Newport City Council Cabinet meeting on Wednesday, the 15th of June 2022. I'd like to give a warm welcome to my new Cabinet colleagues who've joined us here today. So welcome everybody and good afternoon. We start with item number 1 on our agenda today, which is apologies for absence. I don't think we've got any apologies today, have we, Anne? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest in relation to our agenda today? Oh, okay, thanks very much. We'll move then to item number 3, which are the minutes from the Cabinet that took place on the 28th of April, and these can be found in pages 3 to 6 of the packs. Can Cabinet members who were present at that meeting please confirm that they were a true record of the meeting we had on that day?
Happy to confirm that, Leader.
Confirm.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that. Moving on then, we'll move to item number 4 on our agenda, and this is the Corporate Risk Register update for quarter 4. And colleagues, you'll find this on pages 7 to 50 of your packs. And as you'll be aware, the purpose of this report is to present our Corporate Risk Register for the end of quarter 4 for discussion to Cabinet, and we're asked to consider this. So colleagues, we're asked to consider the contents of the report and continue monitoring the risks and the actions being taken to address the risks that have been identified. Now, as you may be aware, the Council's risk management policy and our corporate risk register enables our administration and officers to effectively identify, manage and monitor those risks which could prevent us from achieving our objectives in the corporate plan, and to undertake our statutory duties as a local authority. The Quarter 4 Risk Report will also be presented to the Council's Governance and Audit Committee in July to review the Council's risk management process and governance arrangements. So, colleagues, just for awareness, as a Cabinet we review the risks, the Audit Committee review the risk management arrangements and the governance processes around that, and if they feel the need to do so, they will make comments back to us as a Cabinet. Now, at the end of quarter 4, the Council had 44 risks recorded across our 8 service areas, and those risks were the ones that were deemed to pose the most significant risk in the delivery of our corporate plan. At the end of quarter 3, 16 risks were recorded in the Corporate Risk Register, 9 severe and 7 major. I have to highlight the change in direction of risk scores, and so in comparison to quarter 3, there were no new or escalated risks and no risks were closed. 12 of these risks remained the same. We were able to de-escalate 2 risks from the Corporate Risk Register to the Service Area Risk Registers for monitoring, and these were the safeguarding risk and the in-year financial management risk. 1 risk, pressure on housing and homelessness service, has increased from 16 to 20. 3 risks, COVID-19, demand for additional learning needs and special educational needs support, and schools' finance cost pressures, had their risk scores decreased. So what we have before us really is a presentation of the issues that we've been facing. I think it's important to consider the pressure that the government policy has put on the housing and homelessness service. So we've seen the risk there increase, and that's because of the changes to the legislation around homelessness that we've experienced through the COVID pandemic. So we are seeing a significant demand on temporary accommodation, and this of course is putting pressure on the service area. Now, what we are aware of in relation to this is, whilst we've been able to cover some of this through the COVID-19 hardship fund, and we've also received additional grant funding, this funding will not fully meet the additional costs of continuing to provide high levels of temporary accommodation and the associated staffing and property management expenditure. We also know that the pressures on temporary and move-on accommodation are likely to be exacerbated by the demand for Ukrainian evacuees, and also pressures from UK government in terms of dispersal areas will put further pressures on an already overheating housing system here in Newport. And for those reasons, we've seen that risk escalate. So I'm going to pause at this point before we go any further and invite comments from colleagues. Would anybody like to comment on this particular item? Deputy Leader, would you like to come in there?
Thank you, Leader. Essentially, I want to talk about Recommendation 10 and Recommendation 15, where we've actually been able to move down the risk register, specifically with the AL and SEN support. Cabinet agreed in our most recent budget that we would give 1.2 million towards education, specifically to address the concerns raised at this point in time, and 2 education psychologists, 2 teacher advisors, and 2 SEN officers, and in early years HTLA have been appointed. These are staff who are crucial in supporting schools to increase their capacity to meet the needs of children who have additional needs. Further funding is going to be inputted into 3 teacher advisors to specifically target children with complex behaviours and those at risk of criminal exploitation, our most vulnerable children. In my capacity as Cabinet Member for Education Early Years, this will continue to be one of my priorities. The effective implementation of the ALENT bill needs careful monitoring and scrutiny to ensure that schools continue to meet the needs of their learners. In relation to school finance, we've moved from a score point of 12 to 9, and this has to remain a watching brief in spite of the continued improvement we've seen in how our schools manage their budgets. We cannot return to the situation where a good number of schools were applying for licences to managing a deficit budget. And I have to say, an incredible amount of work, and I'm grateful to our finance and education officers for working with our schools to support them in setting a sustainable budget. But sustainable ownership and financial management need to continue to be the operative words. It is a watching brief. Schools have benefited from COVID grants and support from Welsh Government, and the report is correct that there's potential fragility in going forward if this help and support is not sustained. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for your comments there, Deputy Leader, and I think a huge thank you from all of us in the Cabinet to all of our volunteer school governors who've worked so closely with their head teachers to really try and take a robust approach to financial management. Thank you, everybody. We recognise the nature of volunteering. It's not always a thankful task, so thank you for the time and effort to all of our school governors that they've put into working with our schools in that way. Councillor Hughes.
Good afternoon, Leader. I'd just like to sort of point out, really, just highlight the progress the Council is making towards improving its safeguarding practices, but also, as you mentioned, at a time, when the challenges are almost unprecedented for our staff in social care and voluntary sector and the charities that are working throughout our city, who are really working hard to hold and maintain their sort of level of services at a time when the cost of living crisis is really hitting in now and impacting our communities. So I just wanted to sort of flag up really the immense work that's going on in our communities by our social care staff in particular.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hughes, and thank you for highlighting the really important nature of that work across our communities. And it really is making a difference to people's lives, isn't it? So thank you for that. Are there any further comments from Cabinet colleagues on this particular item? Colleagues content then to move acceptance of the report?
Leader.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. So the next item on our agenda today is item number 5, the Local Area Energy Plan. And this should be on pages 51 to 112 of your packs. And the purpose of this report is to approve the citywide draft Local Area Energy Plan for the whole of our Newport local authority area. Now, colleagues, you will recall that in November 2021, we declared an ecological and climate emergency. As part of the declaration, we pledged to develop a citywide local area energy plan. I am really pleased to be able to present that plan today. Over the last year, we've collaborated with stakeholders from the public, private and third sectors to develop the plan, which sets out a vision and route map for reaching a zero-carbon local energy system for the whole of Newport by 2020. The plan builds on our existing strengths as a city, including our industrial heritage and our track record of innovation, and will enable us, as a local authority, to support residents and businesses in Newport to decarbonise heat, electricity and local transport, and realise local renewable energy production. This is another positive step on the way to decarbonising Newport and tackling climate change in our city. Now, before I go any further, I'd just like to pause there and invite the Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Biodiversity to comment.
Thank you, Leader. As Cabinet Member with responsibility for climate change and biodiversity, I'm pleased to see the final draft of this plan. It is an ambitious plan, and I will be monitoring progress closely and requesting regular updates to ensure we continue to proceed at the speed that will be required. There are some uncertainties on the pathway to 2050, but we have identified 7 priority areas of work and key actions for the first 5 years under each of the areas. We recognise that we will need support from a wide range of stakeholders and partners to deliver this plan, and I look forward to working together across the city with residents, businesses, public and third sector organisations.
Thank you very much for that. So moving to colleagues for comments. Deputy Leader, would you like to come in there?
Thank you, Leader, and I'm delighted to comment on this plan. It was just being implemented as I handed over the portfolio to Councillor Hughes. So when we first signed up to be part of this pilot project along with Conwy, it was really, really exciting to be part of this initial first step and be part of and see the initiation to define what was needed to be considered on what were the key priorities. And it felt a really innovative place to be. And to see this body of work and plan that has clearly come about is really exciting and is a credit to everybody involved in actually developing it. We're already in a position now in working towards carbon neutrality by 2050. We are leading in Wales, and this will benefit our residents and the lifestyles that they lead. The plan recognises that whilst our objective is to achieve this for our residents, we cannot do this, as Councillor Forsey said, quite rightly says, in isolation, and we need to work in tandem with both the Welsh Government and businesses. And 4 key elements were identified in the report, which I believe that we can't do anything without them. We need to effectively mobilise finance, and I believe that as a strong forward-thinking council, we are well placed to strategically achieve this. And alongside this, ensuring that we have strong and consistent policy frameworks. And I'm confident with the Leader and my colleagues who will continue to deliver on this. And as already stated, there's recognition of the need to work with partners in taking this forward. But finally, most importantly, community engagement is key. And already this is one of our priorities and a commitment in our manifesto in going forward. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for your comments there, Deputy Leader. And I think it's really positive, isn't it, to reflect on the journey that we've been through in relation to this. And I think all the great progress that we've made as a city over time, because we've really put a lot of time and effort into this, and I have to thank the teams for the great work that they've done on taking this forwards. Councillor Hughes, another architect of the plan, would you like to come in there?
Thank you, Leader. It's really to echo what you just said, really, Leader. It's just that a few people realise the efforts that actually went into developing this plan, and I'd just like to pay tribute really to the everybody involved in the local authority and beyond, especially in the carbon reduction sort of side of things. And I think their efforts are immense, really. And as has been mentioned, it's one of the first local authorities to get to this position, and I'm really thankful for the efforts and the work that team put in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and certainly to both Councillor Hughes and Councillor Davis, thank you very much for your contributions to the development of this plan over time. They are valued. Thank you. Any further comments from colleagues on this item? Okay, then, colleagues, are you content to approve the plan?
Great. Happy to approve, Leader.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Moving then to item number 6 on our agenda today, the information station project, and you will have seen the report on this in pages 113 to 118 of your packs. Now, the purpose of this report is to provide an update on the project costs, and the proposal is that the Cabinet considers providing agreement to meet in the increased costs of the project in order to allow the proposal to proceed. Colleagues, Cabinet have previously agreed to seek an alternative commercial use for the ground and first floor of the information station and relocate staff and services to the Central Library and Museum building. Officers have been working on the delivery of this project, and to date we've managed to agree heads of terms with Tramshed Tech as the operator of the proposed tech hub and co-working space. We've also secured £1.3 million of Welsh Government Transforming Towns funding for the refurbishment of part of Central Library and Museum to provide our new face-to-face facility. There has been extensive and protracted negotiations with the landlord of the information station with regard to the sublease to Tramshed Tech. But I'm really pleased to say that we've now reached a point where those overarching consents are in place. However, what has also occurred within the intervening period is a global increase in price for construction projects. Unfortunately, colleagues, this has resulted in the cost of delivering this project increasing by £140,000. Now, despite the cost increases, this project gives us the opportunity to deliver new co-working and tech hub space in the city centre. This will build upon and improve current access to co-working space and strengthen our ambition to be a centre for data and tech. Furthermore, by co-locating our face-to-face service alongside our central library service, our residents will have better access to a wider range of support and services all in the same place. It is important, colleagues, that I point out that the current tender prices are only held until the 30th of June, and any further delay in finalising the lease to Tramshed Tech and appointing contractors presents a real risk of costs increasing further. I fully recognise that the increase in project costs puts added pressure on our financial resources, but given the amount of external funding secured and the benefits which flow from this project for our residents and our businesses, I would propose that we endorse this report and support the increased budget requested. Would anybody like to comment on this particular item? Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Leader. I'm fully behind this project. It's been a long time coming. there's been so many delays due to COVID and everything else that, you know, I just want it done. Let's get on with it and let's set it up and sort it out. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And for somebody who's worked so closely with this, I really do share that sentiment as well. It is important that we do get this, reach a conclusion with this project. Any further comments on this item? Colleagues then, are you content to agree to meet the increased costs of the project in order to allow the proposal to proceed? Are you content with the proposal? Yeah?
Agreed.
Yes, thank you, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 7. The Levelling Up Fund, Round 2, the National Technology Institute. Now, the detail of this report is on pages 119 to 144 of the packs. Now, the purpose of this report, colleagues, is to seek Cabinet approval to submit a bid to the second round of the UK Government's Levelling Up Fund that seeks to support the creation of a National Technology Institute in Newport city centre. Now, colleagues, you will recall that the UK Government launched a 4.8 billion Levelling Up Fund last year. Round 1 bidding took place, and Newport put forward a proposal which focused on public realm investment opportunities around the Newport station area. We were bitterly disappointed that we weren't successful with that bid, but UK Government have now opened up bidding for round 2. Now, this does remain a competitive bidding process, and up to £20 million of capital funding is available for regeneration and cultural projects. The deadline for the submission of bids is the 6th of July. Within this framework, Newport is identified as a priority 1 area, and whilst this does give us an advantage in terms of hierarchy of need, this remains a competitive process, and funding will be awarded on the basis of the quality of the bid, not priority status. Now, I'm really pleased to be presenting this report to you today, which asks for Cabinet's approval to submit a round 2 bid, which focuses on the creation of a City of Newport National Technology Institute. This new Technology Institute will be based in the city centre and will complement and build upon the delivery of the Newport Knowledge Quarter. This facility will be delivered in collaboration with Cardiff Capital Region, further and higher education, business and industry experts, and, crucially, with employers. The focus will be on delivering targeted and focused courses and qualifications where employer demand is greatest. It's expected to significantly increase the number of learners with higher technical qualifications, to provide the skills that employers need both now and in the future, which are crucial to our local, regional and national productivity growth. It will also attract a diverse range of learners to address the lack of diversity in some parts of the technical workforce and to maximise their social as well as economic impact. It will also support adult learners, whether in employment or not, who want flexible access to higher level education. Now, this will be a different offer to existing further education and higher education provision, and our local support partners are supportive of this bid. It's important to acknowledge that this bid has been developed as a result of ongoing feedback from employers and representatives through our regional and local partnerships. Our employers and businesses are telling us that they desperately need a pipeline of suitably qualified and trained people in the local area to meet their current needs and to enable their businesses to grow. We've already seen in Newport how alternative offers, such as the National Software Academy and the Cyber Security Academy can succeed. And this concept builds and expands on those offers. Now, colleagues, as I've already mentioned, this is a competitive process and there is no guarantee of success. There may or may not be a third round of funding, but I'm sure that you will agree that we need to pursue all grant funding opportunities available to us in order to deliver on our ambitious regeneration plans for the city centre. Therefore, today, I am asking Cabinet colleagues to support the submission of this second round bid. At this stage, I'll just pause for any comments or contributions that Cabinet members would like to make. Would anybody like to comment on this item? Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Leader. I fully support this second round bidding. I come from a technology and data background myself, so it's exciting to see this type of industry coming into the city, and it especially merges with what's already going on in the city with Microsoft and the data plant. It also is exciting because a lot of our neurodiverse children and education don't conform to standard education, but are very, very adaptable when it comes to data, when it comes to technology. So it's nice to see an offering there for our future generations that don't necessarily university wouldn't work for. So I'd fully support this bid. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your considered comments there, Councillor Lacey. I have to say it's really positive to hear such supportive comments from somebody with a professional background in this field as well. So thank you for that. Deputy Leader, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Leader. I completely concur with the comments that Councillor Lacey has made. As Cabinet Member for Education, I think one of the key issues for us in Newport is raising aspiration and expectation and outcomes for our students. And to see this, if the potential, this gets agreed by national government, gets agreed, the potential opportunities for our children and our students who are currently studying and will in future be studying in our schools is absolutely phenomenal. And it doesn't just lead into industry, it will lead into qualifications that they can take elsewhere or use locally. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Leader.
Excellent. Thank you for your very constructive and supportive comments. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Leader. As someone who had to, I'll speak as a father if I can on this one, but as someone who had to leave the community that they grew up in really to go and find work, I think that what's happening in Newport is potentially quite spectacular in the sense that young people now will be able to not only gain an education and the skills required, but they'll also be able to find hopefully secure work because those are the skills and qualifications that are needed by local employers. And I think the potential for young people to be able to stay in their communities and avoid the historic sort of brain drains that have happened in many sort of communities in the UK, I think is something really special, and I really, really support the bid because I think we're modernising and we're building a future really for our children that is future proof as well, moving on from the industrial heritage of our city. So I think it's really exciting times, and I really support the bid on that basis.
Thank you very much for your very supportive comments there. Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Something as a school governor as well, looking at when we go in and speak with the teachers and seeing what the pupils are doing. Actually seeing pupils doing coding is something that fascinates me, and just something that I look at them in awe, because I'm 33 and I cannot code HTML. Words go over my head, so it's normally let my brothers, etc., do it, my younger brothers. But I think, to see that aspiration from a younger level building up, to have these type of opportunities being brought into the city centre, I think can only benefit, the city as a whole. But I think it's not just the city, it is the wider things afield with our partnerships around the Cardiff City deal, things like the Great and Western cities, things like that. We will hone in and we will be the world-class place for data. So, yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your very supportive comments there. Would anybody else like to comment on this item? Councillor Harvey.
Not to repeat everyone, Leader, but we are moving forward, and this is the future. You know, gone are the days where your dad goes to the steelworks or down a pit. This is the future, and quite rightly it's a clean future for our children moving forward, and I fully support it.
Thank you very much for your very supportive comments there, and I think everyone who's contributed to the discussion on this particular item has recognised the growing importance of this offer, not just in terms of the potential for our young people and our learners, but actually for employers as well. It's really important that the Newport offer is something that meets the needs of employers as well, and that will support growth and prosperity, as you mentioned, colleagues, not just in Newport but across the region as a whole. So, are members content to support the report and agree to the submission of this second round bid? Yeah.
Happy to support that, Leader.
Thank you very much for that, colleagues. Moving on then to item number 8 on our agenda today, which is the Treasury Management Report. This will be in pages 145 to 162 of your packs. Now, the purpose of the report is to provide Cabinet colleagues with an update on Treasury activities undertaken in 2021-22. We've got before us the 21-22 outturn on our Treasury management, and it's important to note, colleagues, that this report has been reviewed by the Governance and Audit Committee, and with no comments or observations requiring the Cabinet's or the Council's attention. So that's a very positive response from there. From here, this report will go to full Council, who are responsible for setting the Council's Treasury Management Strategy and the various indicators and limits that manage this activity. Now, this report explains the Council's borrowing and investing activities in 2021-22 and its position against the indicators and limits set. Regarding borrowing, a substantial difference can be viewed relative to the expected position. The Council has a long-term requirement to borrow, and in pursuing an internal borrowing strategy should normally have minimal investments, which it invests over the short term. However, due to the ongoing impacts of the COVID pandemic, following a second year of significant capital slippage, the take-up of expected borrowing didn't materialise in the way that we anticipated. The need to borrow is still there and will happen, but slippage has meant that this hasn't materialised as quickly as we might have expected. This second year of significant underspending and the resulting increase in reserves, which have yet to be spent, has also meant that cash resources are much higher than expected. This has allowed some small maturing loans to be repaid without refinancing and for spare cash levels to be high and invested. As outlined in the report, this is a temporary position. As we now work to catch up on capital projects, with the financial support linked to COVID now ended, we should see cash resources and investments first reduce and then borrowing resume in line with our requirements over time. Officers are undertaking a detailed review of the capital programme to gain a better understanding of delivery timescales, and this will be reported to us in due course. On the indicators and limits, the report highlights one area where these were not met, which is unusual. The indicator relates to the Council's exposure to interest rate changes. Borrowing costs increase if the interest rate increases, and our income from investing activities would reduce if the interest rate dropped. However, regarding the indicator, it can be noted that the issue has been highlighted due to a different interpretation of our lender option, borrower option loans as variable interest loans rather than fixed interest rate loans. What this really means is that this is therefore more of a technical issue as opposed to one caused by borrowing decisions made. Indeed, The report confirms that given the nature of these loans, if the interest rate did increase, we would be more likely to make a budgetary saving rather than being exposed to the risk of costs increasing. Regarding the limit, this breach has occurred because our amount invested is much greater than that which we'd envisaged when setting the indicator. Again, this is of no concern as the Council's budget target for interest receivable has not changed, and even if rates decreased, it wouldn't impact on that budget. Colleagues, one important point to make as we receive this report is that managing the Council's cash flows has been particularly challenging over these last 2 exceptional years. And I really would like to thank the finance team for all of their hard work during this time. So would anybody like to comment on this report? Okay, colleagues, are you content then to move acceptance of the report?
Happy with that, Leader.
Yes, dear.
Okay. Thank you all very much for that. We're moving then to item number 9 on our agenda today. This is the COVID update report. It's on pages 163 to 170 of your packs. And I'd just like to provide an overview really in relation to this. Cabinet, some time ago, Cabinet decided that this would be a standing item on the agenda as during the period where we were lurching from either responding to COVID or trying to implement our recovery strategies. We continue to receive updates on this, and we're in a similar position with the next item on the agenda as well. So just to familiarise yourselves with the context in relation to this. So this provides Cabinet with an update on the Council's progress that's being made towards recovering services and supporting our communities as part of our strategic recovery aims. And this does feel like quite some time since we've touched upon this. So since the last report in April, the Welsh Government announced the removal of the last legal restrictions for people to wear face coverings in health and care settings. Now, people are still being asked to self-isolate if they display symptoms or test positive for COVID. Vaccinations have been offered to over 75s who still receive the vaccine if they've not done to date, and further vaccinations will be offered in the autumn for residents in care home settings, including staff, frontline health and social care workers, adults aged 65 and over, and those in a clinical risk group. COVID financial support for those self-isolating and unable to work from home will be coming to an end at the end of June. Other financial support is continuing to be offered to households and businesses that are struggling post-pandemic and, of course, through the increasing cost of living. The Council and Welsh Government have various schemes available for households and businesses to access. And I would like to say at this point, colleagues, and I'm sure you'd all join me in this, together as a Cabinet and on behalf of our fellow councillors across the whole of Newport, we really do encourage people to contact us if they find that they are struggling or they do require assistance, because there is help there. So please, for everybody who represents people in communities, this is a really strong message. There is help and assistance. Please get in touch and we will be able to support. In terms of our role as a City Council, restrictions at council buildings have been removed in line with Welsh Government guidance. Office-based staff are still encouraged to work from home and only to work at our council buildings if necessary. Our new normal project is finalising its policy and procedures to fully undertake hybrid and flexible working. The Council welcomed new and existing councillors following the local elections and successfully conducted its first hybrid council meeting. And we look forward to future scrutiny and regulatory meetings using this technology. And it's very good, isn't it, colleagues, to be here today and be able to use this hybrid technology for our first Cabinet meeting of this term as well. So there's a range of very positive updates in relation to service areas. So we know there's some positive work going on across the city around our strategic recovery aims. And I have to say, I was delighted to attend the Newport-wide Jobs Fair in May at the Newport Centre. There were 42 organisations were represented, offering opportunities, real jobs, vacancies for people to take up there and then. And what I'd really like to highlight to you colleagues in terms of how we're working on this particular aim is that I attended this event at the start, and when I left there were people queuing to access it for outside of the doors. So that's tremendous that there's such a level of interest and we're able to provide these services and connect people up. And we've a range of similar schemes that have gone on across the city. We also know, in relation to Strategic Recovery Aim 2, for example, the new revitalised Newport Market opened to really positive feedback earlier this year. And we've got a range of really positive developments there. I'd like to highlight also something that is very dear to my heart as the leader, and something that has gone particularly well, and that's in relation to Strategic Recovery Aim 4 and the participatory budgeting scheme, where we've been able to award the distribution of COVID Recovery Fund community grants through this. Those the events have concluded, and a total of 80 projects across our communities have secured funding, and this really does cover a diverse range of activities and audiences. And I'm really proud of the level of engagement with that, but also a huge thank you to the partnerships team and our external partners for actually helping to make that work. So that really has been a successful initiative. I'm just going to pause at that point because I'm sure that there will be Cabinet colleagues who'd like to comment on this particular item. So I'm going to pause and open for comments. Would anybody like to comment? Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Leader. It feels like we've been dealing with this in forever. That's every single Cabinet meeting for years. We've had an update on the COVID pandemic. I really, really want to reiterate what you've said, in that if you were struggling, the worst that can happen is you're told no. Don't sit there fretting and worrying. You may not be entitled to one thing, but you could very well be entitled to something else. So if you don't ask, you're not going to get, basically. So please, I reiterate what the leader is telling you, and that is to apply for whatever you think you need. Don't sit there in silo worrying yourself silly over it. I also want to put on record again, Leader, my absolute heartfelt thanks to all the teams, the officers and everybody involved in getting us through this COVID pandemic over this last more than 2 years. It's been an uphill slog. It's been on times horrifying, in other times we've made a little bit light. Well, okay, today's a good day. It's really taught us a lesson. Don't take your family for granted. Don't take friends for granted. And most certainly, we must never take our staff for granted. They really pulled out all the stops, and I will forever be grateful for everything they've done. We don't know what's round the corner. Thanks, Leader.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that, Councillor Harvey. And important, I think, to also add our thanks to our previous Cabinet colleagues who supported and helped lead the way through that, the response to that unprecedented situation. Deputy Leader, would you like to come in there?
Thank you, Leader, and I completely support the comments you made in relation to our previous Cabinet colleagues and the comments made by Councillor Harvey, all equally absolutely true. I just wanted to quickly focus on schools, and pre-Christmas we were in the midst of yet another phase of the pandemic, and we were worried that we were concerned that exams would not go ahead. The decision was not taken till Christmas, and we went ahead in Wales in conjunction with the decision that was taken in England, and we needed to do that. And what I would like to say is that the exam process, we're now in full swing. Students in Newport are undertaking their GCSEs and their A-level exams. And it's tough for them. You've got to remember, over the last 2 years, they've not had the opportunity to access education in the way that we would previously take for granted. Sickness has been prevalent. Teachers have gone off sick with COVID. They've had to cope with supply teachers or another teacher stepping in at last minute. There have been supportive measures in place, provided funding by Welsh Government, which has been entirely welcomed, plus a suite of funding and support for children who with heightened anxiety and in the fear of facing those exams. And I'm really, really pleased to report that my understanding that across Newport, those exams are going really well with really, really good attendance. The WJC just prior to the restart of school, issued new guidelines for schools and guidance if children were unwell, had mental health issues in relation to their well-being, or had contracted potentially COVID, and what support mechanisms in place. And they have been they've been taken on board by schools and used constructively. So I just really want to, at the end of this, thank the staff in our schools who've supported those students, enable them to take forward and to enable them to take their next steps in their future careers and opportunities that will hopefully come their way. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader, and we echo your thanks for all of our education professionals that really have been outstanding. Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. So the first event I went as a Cabinet member was the Foster Carers event, and then obviously afterwards to the Carers Week event in the Riverfront. It was so lovely to see people and discuss with them about the support that the council provided them during difficult times. You know, and to just go around, and the fact that it didn't have to come up, you know, and we asked that they told us the support and everything was there. So it was just fantastic to hear that coming into something new, you know, all that worries and things like that there. But it's lovely to see that and to feel the warmth and everything. And that's only come from the good work and dedication. That's come from the local authority. That's come from our past colleagues from the Cabinet, and just volunteers, officers, carers, and all people that really, you know, got stuck in when people ran away from COVID, as to speak. A lot of people went in and ran in to see what they could do to help. So thank you.
Absolutely, and you're right, isn't it? I think to have that feedback from our citizens is so important, and so important for our officers to hear that as well. It really is. Thank you for that. Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to convey what my other colleagues have said in thanks for the council and the council workers and other parties that were involved. I think as new Cabinet members, we're probably coming in and seeing quite a nice update here, which, you know, understandably for the last 2 years it hasn't been. What I'd like to say is it's really nice. It's almost as if we've come out of a hibernation and you're into the spring, where you see things coming on around you. You know, we had the Queen's Jubilee celebrations last week in the city, and it was just so nice to have the community out, and suddenly we're appreciating our neighbours and other things. And, you know, there's a lot going on in the city, as you mentioned, the market, to see that thriving, the Charters Tower, to see that thriving. I'm working closely with Pride in the Port and their events for the coming year, and it's almost now that we can start looking forward rather than being scared to look around the corner, really. So it's nice to see that as a city we're there for our citizens, and hopefully we've got a good few years to come with lovely events that we can go through. So, but just thank you to all, and thank you to the Cabinet that came before us, really, because I don't think it must have been a horrible 2 years to have seen these reports and sat there. I think this is something quite positive, and we're quite lucky to have gone through it. So thank you.
And thank you very much for those very supportive comments. Much appreciated. Any further comments on this particular update? Okay, so members are content to receive the report. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Leader.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 10. Our post-EU transition report. Again, this is another standing item on our agenda, so for new Cabinet colleagues, just to explain the context to this. And we certainly feel that it's important to continue to monitor the impact of this across our city. So the purpose of the report is to present us with an update on developments since the UK left the European Union, and on Newport Council services and Newport communities and the economy. And you'll also find within this report an update on our Ukraine response as well. We're all very critically aware, aren't we, of the emerging impact of the cost of living crisis. And since our last report as a Cabinet in April, we've seen that households and businesses continue to see increases in their cost of living. Inflation continues to escalate and is expected to continue rising. And businesses, and we've already seen on our agenda today, haven't we, about increased project costs. You know, businesses are having to pass on increased costs to the consumer. Many low to middle income households are having to make very difficult decisions between food, utility bills and transport. The UK energy regulator Ofgem have already indicated that the fuel cap will rise to £2,800 in October. And you know, it's with the utmost regret that I find myself having to set out these items to us today, colleagues, because we recognise the challenges that lie ahead for our citizens and our communities, but also for the people that we employ as well. This is something that we'll face as a society. We have responded as best we can to these challenges. So our council tax team have been encouraging households in bands A to D to claim the £150 cost of living payment. And we will be making a further announcement on how we provide an additional £1.2 million to support our most vulnerable households. Welsh Government is already trying to raise the profile of their campaign, Claim What's Yours, and this is available for trying to raise people's awareness of how to access benefits and how they can be assisted with the help that they need. As a City Council, we're also offering a £500 payment for unpaid carers who look after someone for 35 hours or more and who are on low incomes. Our businesses in our city are also able to claim rate relief from us as a council. In addition to that, we're also providing grants to start-up and existing businesses. Now, you recall that earlier in 2022, colleagues, we made, as a Cabinet, a conscious decision to increase the funding that is made available to our food banks in recognition of the increase in demand and the decline in donations. And we made £100,000 of additional funding available. We're now working in partnership with Gavo to offer capital grants for food bank and community organisations to deliver food security projects. In relation to some of these projects and some of this work, of course, as you'll be aware, we are also developing our bids for the Shared Prosperity Fund, and Cardiff Capital Region are leading on developing this bid, and we are, as a City Council, are developing our own local investment plan that will support the delivery of local priorities for our communities across Newport. And we'll have further announcements on this and further information through Cabinet on the plan. I'd just like to move on then to the EU and Ukraine update and really say what I've said consistently on this, because I really genuinely, truly mean this. And I'm sure that you do too. Newport is a city that recognises the contribution of its residents in making Newport a rich, diverse and inclusive place to live. We've welcomed citizens from across the world and support those who are seeking refuge and safety in Newport and in Wales. The Council and our partners are continuing to support EU, EAA citizens with their settled status claims and ensuring citizens are able to access the services that they need. The war in Ukraine has caused the displacement of many tens of thousands of Ukrainian people from their homes. Ukrainians arriving in Newport and Wales are being supported by the council, health, school and community groups to settle in the city. In the last month, Newport Council and partners have 80 approved visa applications issued in connection with 52 active Ukrainian placements across 22 sponsors. Council services have undertaken additional responsibility, helping to process applications, complete necessary safeguarding checks, and administer financial payments to hosts and Ukrainians. Our schools have also helped welcome Ukrainian children into their school communities and help them settle into schools. What I have to say in relation to this particular part of this item is that I cannot thank my colleagues within the Labour group, including one of our cabinet members here today, who've opened their homes to take in our guests, our visitors from the Ukraine. Your warmth, your hospitality and your generosity is outstanding, and I truly thank you for everything that you're trying to do in relation to support people at this time. The support across the whole of the city really has been tremendous, and it's been really positive to work so closely with the women of Newport on some of the efforts that they've made. I don't think they anticipated, when they appealed for donations at the outset, how it would grow on such a scale. And what these outstanding women have achieved is absolutely inspirational. And I have been able to become involved with the project myself and support the project. And I was absolutely delighted to go along to the Westgate Hotel to a celebration event that the Women of Newport had organised for all of the volunteers that had come together from across a range of backgrounds from all across South Wales to say thank you to them for their efforts. But also, importantly, for me as the leader of the City Council, it was a great opportunity to be invited to open the new doors, the newly installed doors of the Westgate Hotel, and speak to our Ukrainian visitors, not just about the really important historic symbolism of the Westgate Hotel for democracy here in Newport, to open the doors to them, but to open our hearts as a city to them and truly welcome them here. And I was so privileged and truly humbled to be able to participate in that way. We should not forget that this is an ongoing crisis, and we do need to provide continued support. And we will continue to do so in line with all of the work we're doing to protect and support our citizens at this very difficult and challenging time. So I'm just going to pause at that point and invite colleagues to comment. Would anybody like to comment on this particular item? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Lydia. I'd just like to sort of continue on that theme, really, in the sense that Councillor Marshall and myself attended an event that was actually sponsored by the local authority, supporting and building on the relationships with our Hungarian community in Newport. And the importance of that really is that, you know, they've also come to Newport like many other people and settled and made Newport their home. And once settled, their children now are learning Welsh. They were there singing Welsh songs with us. But also, importantly, they're not working in isolation because of the work that a lot of the work that Newport itself does. They were actually actively involved in helping Ukrainian families as well, who obviously they share a border with back in their homeland. But it's that importance really that actually people come to Newport and actually settle and actually make it their home, and they're very thankful then, and they go on to help others as well. So I think there's a continuation to the story for many years to come, and I think they greatly appreciated the support that they had from Newport Council. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for your comments there, Councillor Hughes, and I do agree, and really across our service areas, but certainly within our partnerships team, the work that goes on is absolutely tremendous. It really is. So thank you for your comments there. Any further comments? Okay, colleagues, are you content to accept this report? Yep. Thank you all.
Leader.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you all very much for that. Item number 11 on our agenda today is just our work programme, and you can see this in pages 177 to 184 of our packs. This is just a monthly report on the work programme, and you know what will be coming up at forthcoming meetings. Are you content to accept the updated work programme, colleagues?
Yes, thank you, Leader.
Yes.
Leader. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for your contributions today to our first ever hybrid Newport City Council Cabinet meeting. It's been a real, it's been a really positive experience, actually. It's great to be able to engage in these discussions in this way. And I'd like to thank the Democratic Services team for their support, really, in actually enabling this and facilitating this. So thank you everyone for helping us get through this so smoothly. We really do appreciate the support that you've given us with this. So at this point then I'll draw the meeting to a close, and thank you all once again for your continued support and your contributions to the city. Thank you.